Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. If you are a first-time listener, delighted to have you here. If you are back again, very glad to have you, and I hope you'll keep coming back. I'm Dr. Margo Jacquot, your mental health business mentor, and this podcast talks about how practice owners can be successful and profitable. And so today I have a long-time dear, I will call you a colleague. I mean, we're not in the same industry, but we went through the 10,000 Small Businesses program that was provided by Goldman Sachs, which I think was their penance for taking down the market, in 2008. And so they were training small business owners. And Rebecca is the CEO and big head of Officeheads, which I'm going to tell you about. But Rebecca was also my first guest on this podcast several years ago, and just is a wealth of knowledge around how to read a balance sheet, how to do a profit and loss statement and understand it. What do we need to do to be more profitable if we can? And right before I hit record, Rebecca and I were just talking again about some of the specifics for our industry folks. So let me tell you more about Rebecca so you can hear more from her. You've heard already plenty from me. So Rebecca Berneck is the CEO and big head of Officeheads. Rebecca's ineffable spirit, that's so true, has taken her from corporate problem solver to the Pied Piper of small business owners. I love that. She applied her vast talents to creating not one, but two seven-figure consulting firms in 5 years. So folks, she knows what she's talking about. She knows her stuff and knows how to put it to use for her clients and audiences. She has implemented best practice processes, provided financial management and tax services, and advised a slew of hectic entrepreneurs to know their numbers and to apply this powerful information to their financial and strategic goals, creating the Officeheads 5-gear financial management system. Outside of work, Rebecca is a retired vintage motorcycle racer and still sings the national anthem at vintage motorcycle events. The largest crowd thus far is 70,000 people. So if you do not have nerves of steel to have the land speed record and also sing in front of 70,000 people and do all those business decisions, I don't know what you have. So welcome, Rebecca Berneck. Thank you for being here with us.
Oh, Margo, it is my absolute pleasure to be back on your podcast and to just spend time with you because we never spend enough time together.
That is true. Yeah, we don't live that far apart, but we just don't spend enough time. That's true. Well, now you have other things you're doing. I have, we all have stuff, but in our retirement, right? We're not that far up in age in our retirement. So, so folks, just before we hopped on, I mentioned that Rebecca and I were talking about why now? Why did I ask her this question right now? And why do I want her to come on and talk about a subject matter like profit? Because, some of it is kind of obvious, right? Profit, it's what you have at the end of your business day and your business year. And how much did you take in and you get to keep? That's a really rough. I'm going to have Rebecca give you a much better description of what that is. But to your question, Rebecca, which I thought was great, why now? And what am I asking for? And what I said was, folks, I don't know about you, but certainly around here, we have not had an appreciable raise from an insurance company in about 10 years. A few dollars here and there, but compared to the increase in cost for everything, labor costs, now we have to have our staff be W-2. They used to be 1099. That was easy peasy. Now we're on the hook for taxes. We're on the hook for 401k. We're on the hook for health insurance. We're on the hook for PTO. And if you're a fee-for-service business, where do you find that money? Oh, and then people want an annual review and they want more money without having to do more work in a fee-for-service business. How do we make that happen? And I see on Facebook groups, several businesses regularly are closing, practices are closing because the numbers don't add up. So Rebecca, you are our numbers person. I'm thrilled to have this conversation with you. So let's just start with profit. I mean, it seems pretty basic, like, okay, so here's what profit is. Can you just define it for us in terms of how you at Officeheads and as the big head would define profit?
Great question, starting from the beginning with some education. Profit is what you have left over after you have received all of the money for the services that you provide, subtract all of the expenses that you needed to spend in order to deliver that service, and it's the money that you have left over. That is your profit. Now, there's a couple of little intricacies with that. One, you could say profit, but then profit margin. And margins are always the magic metric because it gives you a pulse of what's going on and should always be relatively the same regardless of how much money you bring in. So let me give you an example. So if you bring in $100, you spend $50, you subtract $50 from 100, and your profit is $50. So if you bring in $1,000 and then you spend $500, $500 is your profit. So, if you look at it in dollars, you got a $50 profit and a $500 profit. So how do you kind of then plan or measure or think, oh, what does that mean? That's where the margin is important. So you divide that profit from the original revenue and you get a percentage. And so if you take a look at both of those examples, the percent was 50%. So after you track your income, expenses, and profit for some time, like regular bookkeeping, regular accounting, looking at your reports from day one when you go into business. If you're not quite there yet, get your books ready because you have to have the numbers in order to then analyze them. Then you can look at trends, right? And so if you've for the last 5 months, my profit was 50%. Hey, that's, spot on. I figure it's 50. So now that's my benchmark. Margo, you had mentioned that in the industry, it's usually 8 to 10%, which is, slim. But it depends. Are you paying yourself first and ending up with 8 to 10%, or is that 8 to 10% what you then get to go home with? So there's different ways that you take a look at how you're running your business. But either way, let's say you have a month and all of a sudden your profit margin is, well, let's say it's like 90%, or let's say it's 1. Either way, it is so far off of base, you kind of go, oh, I think that needs a little bit more investigation. Let me go take a look at what happened, what changed. If it's for the good, can I replicate it? And if it's for the negative, what happened? How can I fix it? And if you do it on a monthly basis, you're on time enough to be able to pivot, review, and change.
Oh, Rebecca, that is a nugget of gold, right? Which, and I've worked with Officeheads and worked with you, and I will tell you, folks, this being able to work and understand your numbers, work with your numbers, run your business by the numbers, that has been just an absolutely invaluable education for me. And it's really when things started to change. I was much smaller when we first met, and now we're probably 3 times the size that we were, in part because we pay attention to the numbers. So folks, talk to Rebecca, figure out how to do your numbers. You have to run your business by the numbers. So to your point, we're not just looking at the end of the year and saying, oh, wow, what was my profit margin? I don't have any idea. And I mean, frequently when I work with a practice, I do business consulting for practices to help them increase their profitability. One of the questions I ask is, well, what was your profit last year? What was your profit last month? What was your last 90 day? Right? For that reason, because 1 month you might be up, 1 month you might be down. And if you don't know why or what to do to correct it, that's when people, I'm assuming, can run into huge problems.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And also, I just want to step back to say, there's no scolding, there's no judgment on how you're doing it now or how you're doing it in the future, because there are, you know what, I usually say 2 ways. I think there's three reasons why you should know your numbers on a regular basis. I can't remember the third one because it just popped up in my reading just the other day, but let's just say there's 2. One of them is tax. You need to have your numbers to prepare a tax return. Tax return is an annual thing. So you could not do this at all and then spend that 3 weeks in February, March, where you're pulling your hair out and have boxes and stacks of receipts, bring your numbers together and give it to your CPA. You could do that. But what you're missing out by doing it that way is that business intelligence of knowing how you're doing month to month to month. So that's where the next reason to do your numbers is for that business intelligence. And so if something goes wrong, you can catch it right away. If something goes right, you can try to replicate it. And that's the beauty of do your bookkeeping and your accounting and get your reports on a monthly basis. If you can look at it on a monthly basis, fantastic. But at a minimum, every quarter, take off your therapist hat, put on your, hey, I'm a kick-ass CEO hat, and look at those numbers, analyze them, and say, okay, what does this mean to me? What does this say? What do I need to do? What are my goals for the next 3 months in order to take that information and steer my practice in a way that where I want it to go. So it could be I want to grow it. It could be I want to maintain it. It could be, hey, I want to sunset it because I'm ready to retire. So you have
Mhm.
different goals depending on where you are in your business, and knowing what your numbers are, it's through the lens of numbers and making really good strategic decisions.
Exactly. And folks, if you've been a listener of the podcast, you've heard me say you have to run your business by the numbers. And I love that you are non-judgmental about it. There's no shame. I love that. There is a strong, from me, nudge because I know the difference in my own business and my own practice between when I didn't do it and then when I did. So folks, I love your very gentle, kind, invitational approach. And I'm going to say, please take her seriously, take us all seriously in this, because it's a thing. And to your point, we do not want to be surprised if things aren't going well. We just don't want to be surprised. So that's great. I love that. But quarterly sounds like a good cadence. How do people figure this out? Who can they hire to get good numbers if they're not numbers people? They've probably done some QuickBooks. Maybe they do it themselves. Maybe somebody does it for them. How do we get those numbers so that they have an accurate estimate or an accurate accounting of what their profit is every quarter?
I can right off the bat hire office heads or
Right,
hire a really good,
please,
hire
really
office,
hire office
hire
heads, folks.
hire someone who can do it better, hire someone that you trust, all of those things. But we're talking, but what is the topic of this podcast, right? It's profitability, and it's pretty lean. And then most of everybody's gonna go, I can't afford it, right? So then you go, okay, if you can't find somebody to assist you in getting those reports that can be analyzed, then do it yourself, but teach yourself. And it's important enough to learn how to do it. So I will also say, so this is, I'll segue and then come back. Officeheads works with organizations that are service-based organizations that are a million to 10 million. So in our 17 years, we've our the people that we support are bigger companies. My
Mhm.
heart is with the entrepreneur, the solopreneur, the kitchen table entrepreneur, the gig worker, the therapist, the
Mhm.
creative, who sort of get lost. I mean, that's why I started Officeheads. And all of this stuff gets lost because, what are you too small? No, no, no. You need this just
Mhm.
as much as the larger corporation.
Mhm.
So I'm creating Officeheads Academy. It's in the works right now. And not
Oh,
only does
wow.
it, right? I have wanted to do this for probably since I've known you, Margo, for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Do tell.
So it focuses, of course, because I'm a numbers person. It focuses on finance, but it has a broader foundation. So it really is saying, hey, guess what? When you started your own business, whether you knew it or not, you signed up to be a CEO. So why not be a kick-ass CEO? So this course is, how do you get from chaotic entrepreneur to kick-ass CEO? So part of it is vision, mission, values, and business structure. There is a book out there called Traction. It implements EOS, which it's the entrepreneurial operating system. And it's really focused for companies that have 10 people or more. But some of those models are fantastic. So we take it, we trim it down. You can do this as a solo person because it is structure, it is understanding. And they recommend a quarterly look back, right? I'm looking at this quarterly, and then I'm making plans for the next 3 months. So Oppositeheads educates people on EOS. We're going to have online quarterly meetings so we can talk about our vision. We can talk about all of that. It's so wonderful. And then I have so many models of just running businesses through my 30 plus years in business. And so we've really drilled down on financial management. What does it mean? What are the glossary of terms? How to set up your QuickBooks? We are in the process of looking at Zero as well, so we can have two different systems. But how do you do your own bookkeeping so it's efficient and not scary? And then that goes into now, then it ties together. Okay, great. I've done my bookkeeping. I've closed everything. I know it's accurate. Now you put on your kick-ass CEO hat and go, well, what does this mean to me and what am I going to do with it? So that's what Officeheads Academy is. And I'm building it now. And it's, cross fingers, it'll launch January of 2026. But here's the fun thing for your listeners. I wanted to, of course, can answer all the questions that someone might have for a business, startups, people who've been doing it for 5 years that still have questions. And so there's a website called academy.officeheads.com. And there's a button on there that says, I have a question, because I'm crowdsourcing. I'm asking people, what is your question? And it might end up on that website. It might end up in a newsletter, and it's going to help us form our course, and it'll get your questions answered. So
Really?
if you have a business question, ask me and I will answer it.
Oh, that's fabulous, folks. So that's academy.officeheads.com.
Yes.
So folks, go on, ask a business question to Rebecca. I'm telling you, I mean, I think you really, and this is not hyperbole, I think you know this stuff inside, outside, up, down, all the way around. I trust you. I would trust you to like go with my books, open them up, and there would be no judgment. There would be just constructive input. Really, folks, I think that would be a great thing for you to be able to do. So that's
Okay.
really wonderful.
Thank you. And enough about me, because if someone says, what's this thing about profit and profit margin? I'm going to push it to this podcast because that's what we're talking about, right?
Okay,
It's the
great.
money you have left over. So let me ask you a question, Margo. So when you advise your therapists, are they paying themselves and then have that 8 to 10% profit left over, or are they not paying themselves and that's what their income is?
That's such a great question. What I recommend for people when I'm talking to them about how to set up their practice, it's that you pay yourself and then what you have left is your profit, not the other way. You don't pay yourself out of the profit. That's not the profit. I don't know what, right? That's your salary. That's not profit. So to your
Exactly.
point, thank you for asking. That's a good one. And she's nodding her head, folks, in case you're not able to see the video portion of this. So that's hopefully the right answer. So I got that one right, hopefully.
Yes, absolutely. Because people go into business not to be a business person. They go into business because they love what they're doing. And it's
Mhm.
especially hard when you're a mission-driven organization, so like nonprofits have a heartfelt mission. Therapists, I want to help people. And it's really
Mhm.
hard to separate the I want to help people to I need to run a business and have a profit and pay myself. And it's okay to pay myself. It's a really hard separation, but
Mhm.
it's a good one to have, right? It's a good one to have. So, yes, you run your business like a business, regardless of the heart aspect. And that profit is then what you get to do with at the end of the day. So, another book, it's a great book for solo people just to sort of kind of remove the emotion a little bit. It's called Profit First. So, if you have you talked about profit?
Well, I haven't, but you recommended it for me and I read it and it was excellent. So folks, yes. So please.
It does, and it helps to remove the emotional aspect out of it. But I'm just going to totally skim over what the point of the book is. But it's take your profit first. You are a business owner, and if you've got, take your profit first. And the idea is if you take your profit first, then what's left over is what you spend to operate your business, which is different from most people do, which is your money comes in, you spend a bunch of money, and what's left over, you go, oh, it's not that much. So it's kind of that you will spend what you've got. So say then let's go back to our examples and let's not do the $100 example. Let's do the $1,000 example. So you have $1,000 and you say and you back engineer what you need to live, right? Because there's a thin line between personal and business when you run your own business. So you're kind of like, well, let's not even use $1,000 example. I need 5 grand a month to pay my mortgage, to food, cat food, get my kids to school, whatever it is, this is what I need. So you take a look at that and go, okay, I need to make sure that I'm bringing in at least that much. So let's say it's $5,000. You bring in $6,000. You pay yourself first. You have $1,000 to spend. So then you say, well, what expenses are absolutely necessary for that $1,000. Now that's not a lot, that $1,000, But if you guys are solo and you're doing a virtual, you don't have rent. I mean, there's certain things that you go, okay, okay, so what do you do in that instance? Well, you live off of less, which is not the right answer, right? Because you still need that. You realize I need this money to live. You can increase revenue. I need to get out there. I need to sell. It's hard to sell therapy, but get your get your name out there. Be known that you
Mhm.
exist. So when people do need your services, they call you. So you can
Mhm.
increase that income, the money coming in, and then you tweak your expenses. So, you know, that is a wonderful book to be able to go, oh, I pay myself first, and then I distribute stuff. It is simple, but it's a psyche thing, it's a mental thing. And they also say, have different bank accounts. And we've got some online banking platforms that we can recommend that you have multiple accounts that don't charge you a monthly fee, that you can
Mm.
easily go, here's my operating account. And then at the end of the month, you close your books and you say, here's my 5 grand or whatever, and you move it over to your personal account. And then you move
Mhm.
over to your operating expense account, and you just move them into different accounts. There's a little
Mhm.
bit more bookkeeping involved because you have to reconcile all those accounts. But
Right.
if you're not looking at those accounts, they tend to start to save, and they have a purpose of its spending. It's a wonderful method, and it's simple, but it messes with your head in a very good way to be able to work with your money.
Exactly. It messes with your head in a good way. I love that, Rebecca. Exactly. Right. It gets in your head and you have to think about it a little bit differently. Yeah, or a lot differently, which I think is a smart way to go. So here's the thing. People are anywhere between trying to keep their doors open because, again, we haven't gotten an appreciable raise, cost for everything has gone up, and folks who actually have a profitable practice who are saying, okay, so I can't get more money out of Blue Cross Blue Shield, right? I squeeze, I ask, no, and it's not going to happen. So if we can't, right, there's only so many hours in the day, you can only see so many clients, you're only getting so much money. Given that scenario, what are some ways that you can think of that people can increase their profitability or just have more money at the end of all of that accounting and bookkeeping?
There are things that you can do. It all falls down to expenses, right? So, and then that falls down to know your numbers and know know what's going out and what it's for, and ensure that it's what you want, what you need, and it's doing what it needs to do. Like one of them, and this is also again, that fine line between your personal and your business.
Mhm.
What I'm saying here also goes to your personal side, right? One of them is subscriptions. Oh my goodness, how many subscriptions do we all pay for on the business side, on the personal side? Review your vendors, review your subscriptions. Are
Mhm.
they accurate? Are they doing what they need to do? Can you find a different one, a different subscriber that's less money? Look at your vendors. Can you negotiate things down? Is there ways to do things a little bit cheaper? And I use that example of the bank account. If you bank at big, huge bank that charges you $15 a month because you don't have a lot of profit, you can't keep your minimum balance. So, ching, ching, there goes your fee. Are there other banks? Zoom. Hey, I can use Mercury. Mercury, I can have up to 10 if I needed to accounts. And they don't charge me anything. Oh, and they've got a really good bank bill pay. Oh, and they've got really good online features. Oh, look at that. So take a look at where your money's going and ask yourself. And by the way, you should be doing this. I usually say on an annual basis, review your vendors, review all your expenses, and ask
Mhm.
yourself, with the money that I have left, because now I'm paying myself first, with the money I have left, where do I choose for it to go? And
Mhm.
then make some choices. Some of those choices will be difficult. But what's more difficult? Closing my doors, or I'm not gonna okay, I'm not gonna pay for Pandora to pump the music into my place anymore. I'm going to create a playlist and just put it on a loop. I don't know, things like that you can go be kind of innovative on how you can tweak those expenses.
But that's a great example, right? Because a lot of us get nickel and dimed because we're not tracking, we're busy. We're not tracking where the money is going. So yes, we do this every year as well. Every single vendor, every place we're spending, every subscription to a magazine, because we still have some hard copy magazines in the waiting room. Does anybody look at them? If I walk out there and they're all still untouched at the end of the week, well, let's not do that then. I mean, so there are ways that we can look at it and say, and you and I actually have done this. I mean, we did this with our expenses. Like, let's go through, what are you spending your money on? And it's painful. And there are things I think I need. I was talking to somebody recently. She said, I have a Canva subscription. I love that. It's really helpful. When is the last time you used it? I think a year ago. Okay, I'm glad you love it, but do you need it? Maybe not now. So it is being a little mercenary with your own expenses and saying, look, we might just have to cut, cut, and cut. But, another thing that we've discovered here is, in practice, I've talked to practice owners who have said, I want to be very small. I want my practice to be small and intimate. And I think that's great. With someone like you and Officeheads, somebody could run some models of if you, under this assumption, and folks, Rebecca used the word assumption because I gave her very few details, which is not useful at all when you're trying to do forecasting and figuring out your money, right? There are several assumptions. But one assumption would be, I'm going to have 5 employees. This is what I think my picture will look like if I have 5 employees. I don't really want 10, but what is my picture? Better, worse, the same. 15, better, worse, the same. 20, better, worse, the same. And people have asked me over the years, why have you gotten so big? So folks at the Juniper Center, we have 82 clinicians. And some folks have said, right, I mean, Rebecca just was like, wow, why have you gotten so darn big? Well, partly because it's just been organic growth because there's a need. And, we just, people call us and we need more people to fill, to take them. So that's why we've gotten that big. But also from a profitability perspective, when you're in an environment where expenses go up and reimbursement does not, then volume is just another way to make up for that if you do it smartly. We were in a phase for a while where every time we would grow, oh my gosh, we would end up almost in a deficit in terms of greater profitability because it takes money to grow. And then you have to have more staff and admin, and you have to have more services available. And right. So that there are ways to do it, but boy, you need to do it with somebody who can help you do that forecasting. And Rebecca, if in all your copious amounts of free time toward the end of this year, if you felt like coming back and helping us talk to people about forecasting, how do you do it? Get set up for 2026 in a different way. I would love that. I think that would be delightful.
I would love it. And everything to me is a financial puzzle that needs to be solved. And
Yeah,
so
I love
I
it.
would love to come back. And what I really, really want to do, there was a model that I created for you, and it was in Excel. And because I remember it, and I think about it. I
Mhm.
just mentioned this like last week in a staff meeting, which is like, I got to find that because it was an Excel file that looked like a calendar. And it's like, in every
Mm.
calendar, like how many days do you have people, and how many people are in each of those
Yes.
days, and what is their rate, and how many can they do, and we did it in a visual calendar, and so
Mhm.
you knew that then that sets goals, right? I have this many therapists, they have to have a minimum of this many sessions, and then you get to understand that. And now let's slice and dice profitability, right? Because what we were talking about before is the profitability of an organization, big, huge picture at the top of the mountain. But now we're going back to, well, what is profitability by staff member, profitability by day, profitability by location? So those are, now we start getting into some really great bits of data to go, oh, you and I had these conversations. This location is not profitable. Do we keep it open? And like, okay, well, so yeah, it's true that this location might be holding up is profitable and holding up this one. Is it worth keeping it open because it's new and you might do some marketing so people know that it's there, or there's a reason because there's a special therapist there that has a specialty and that you just need to keep it open, but you know that it's a loss, but it's a loss. It's a strategic decision to keep it open. See, that's where I love you. You can do anything you want as a business owner. Just be strategic and make your decisions based on the numbers. And
Exactly.
it's exciting. I would love to come back. So answering that, and I'm going to find that tool, and I'm going to make it so it's a downloadable thing that other people can use. That's what I'm going to do.
Excellent. And so folks, really, I remember that. And was that when we were writing on your wall? I mean, this was great. Seeing that visually was wonderful for me because it took it out of just a concept in my head and it made it actionable. So yes, being able to think about per day, per location, per therapist, and all the other things that go into that. We have a Michigan Avenue location, which if you're from Chicago, you kind of get that idea. It's, downtown, Magnificent Mile, it's high rent. That's where our medical team is housed. It is our least profitable location, even though those are the people who charge the most money. Why? Because we have to pay them more. And the rent down there is much higher than it would be out here in Park Ridge, which is near O'Hare Airport. So there are a lot of variables. It's still profitable, it's just less profitable. And what makes it worth it, and how do we keep it in the black? So that's wonderful. I would love to have you back. So, Rebecca, if you had to distill down your wisdom in just 3 bullet points, I know everybody cringes when I ask this question, 3 bullet points. What are the top 3 takeaways that you would suggest for people?
Well, number one, bookkeeping. Keep your books up to date and accurate because you can't do any of this without the numbers. That's number one. Number two, take the time to look at the reports and know what they mean and what they're saying. Monthly basis, you get an A plus 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 from me, and you get an A if it's quarterly. And seriously, I do mean even physically take that, put a different hat on, go somewhere else, go to a coffee shop, sit in your favorite chair, but all the things that pull you in other directions and focus on that CEO strategic thinking. And I would say number 3, if you had all of those, do that detailed drill down and look at where you're spending. We were talking about emotions, right? There's emotions in all of this. And you take a look at Canva and go, oh, but I love it. That's emotional. But, again, like everything is emotional. And you have to sort of go, okay, and move that energy up here and, rather than down
To
here
your
when you're
head,
making those
not in
decisions.
your heart.
That is exactly right. Yeah.
You are office heads, not office heart. Although you have a very big heart, Rebecca. Sorry, I interrupted you, but you're right. For folks who couldn't see, it's that you were pointing to your head and you are office heads, which is with a big heart. So, well, Rebecca Berneck, thank you so, so much. Big-headed office heads. Really appreciate you coming. Folks, keep coming back. We will make sure we have Rebecca's contact information in the show notes, but just in case people want to hear it because they're auditory learners, how can they get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of us at officeheads.com. There's a contact form there. We have our main phone number, 847-866-8877. And if you're an email person, info@officeheads.com.
Please do check them out, folks. I can't recommend Office Heads and Rebecca highly enough. Academy.officeheads.com to ask some questions
Yes,
and be part of the beta. So
please,
that's great.
please, please. I
Please
want to
do.
build this for you. So let's do it. Let's do it
Exactly.
together.
Let's do it. Exactly. And so I'd love to have you come back and tell us more about it once it's up and running too. So I'll just co-opt all your time. How's that?
Okay. I'm
So,
good with that.
good. Great. Well, folks, thank you for joining us. Rebecca Berneck, thank you for joining me here today. If you're new, I hope this has made you want to come back. This was a wonderful conversation. I look forward to having you with us next time, everyone. Be well.